you doing?
How you doing, buddy? I'm not too bad. Not too bad. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good stuff.
How was the swim, most importantly?
Good. It's something that I've implemented into my camp this time around.
Right.
And it's helped me leaps and bounds. Really helped my cardio and endurance and recovery time.
So what are you doing, sort of different variations of swimming and doing sort of drills and stuff like that in the pool and doing intense and then slow, or are you just doing as many lengths as you can?
A mixture of all the above.
Yeah.
Mixture of all the above. Yeah. Keep the body guessing.
Yeah.
And the human body is a marvelous thing. I tell people all the time, if you can get people that live in Alaska in the middle of snow, or guys wrapping their head in the middle of a desert, and their body can adapt to that, the human body can adapt to a few laps of swimming or some sprinting or a few punches. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So other than the swimming, how are the other preparations going for Saturday?
It's going wicked, man. Wicked.
Anything new for this camp?
Hey?
Anything new?
There's been a couple of things, I'll keep them under the radar, I'll
course.
reveal all those after the fight, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But I've added a couple of new wrinkles, a couple of different things to the game, made some adjustments, and everything's going well, so far so good.
That's good to hear. So I'm a professional singer, I sing, and I sometimes find that doing a sort of party for family and friends is a lot more difficult than going out somewhere where I'll go and play in front of nobody that I know and get out of there. How do you feel about fighting in front of a home crowd? Is it something that sort of wants you to perform well, or you obviously do? But
you know what? I'm in one of those unique positions where I've fought in front of my hometown a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was coming up on the local circuit, I fought away from my town a little bit, but I was privileged enough to have a few MMA shows that were quite local. So that was why I was able to build up quite a following in my local towns and in my own city. And so it's nothing new to me. Fighting in front of a home crowd really is nothing new to me. I used to do it all the time.
Is that something you prefer then? Do you prefer fighting in front of the home crowd?
Or
do you prefer going causing the upset?
Makes absolutely no difference to me. The only thing that's stressful about fighting in front of a home crowd is the amount of people that now ask you for tickets.
Yeah, I know how you feel, yeah.
That's it. Because I don't want to drive around dealing with tickets.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things that Cage Warriors ever did was introduce the link, the e-ticket link for fighters. You know what I mean?
So it's a lot easier for you to sort out. I sent you the interview with Mick Stanton.
Hang on a second.
Oh, you've gone sideways.
Good. I went through the same thing yesterday when, just bear with me.
That's alright, mate.
Funnily enough, ironically, the person calling me just then did an interview with me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, yeah.
For some reason, I can't. Hang on a second. So what's happened there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, yeah.
Technology. Just a second. I need to be able to hear you properly. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I don't know why
Is it a bit quiet?
It was just cool. Okay.
Alright. Is that any better? I can turn my mic up a bit as well if you want. Uh-oh. That's not technology. That's all good old-fashioned physics, that one.
What is going on here? I'm having a mirror on. Absolutely.
I'm going to cut this bit out, but I might leave it in now.
Okay, no. Let's see if I can find it. It's fucking disappeared. There we go. Absolutely garbage with these things.
That's alright, man.
Okay.
Alright, so on to Mick Stanton. I sent you the interview that I did with him. One of his
Yeah.
quotes that I used, I took it out because he had mostly nice things to say about you, but one of the things he did say was that he's going to box your head off and then show you how to wrestle.
Yeah.
Are you ready for both of those things?
I actually genuinely, I find Mick absolutely hilarious. I know that he, in his other fights, he winds his opponent up. It's really hard to wind me up. And, shit, sorry.
That's all right.
Do it again. Bear with me. I will get this right, believe it or not.
The good old-fashioned phone holder. Yeah.
So, I genuinely find Mick hilarious. You know what I mean? I think he's a good guy. He's hilarious, but he's not going to box my head off, and he's not going to show me how to wrestle. And the main reason is because I'm superior to him in both those areas, and that's no disrespect to Mick. He's a good fighter. He's a tough guy. He's got a massive heart, a huge fucking watermelon-sized set of nuts, and an absolute breeze blockhead that you struggle to hit this guy and finish him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of boxing and wrestling, I honestly don't think he's going to throw a punch for more than 30 seconds of that fight. I think he's going to come in, he's going to try and throw a couple of punches, and he's going to dive straight onto one of my legs immediately. His instinct is going to take over, and his instinct is going to tell him once he feels just a solid jab back. Mm-hmm. To his brain is going to tell him shit. Shoot, he's going to go into autopilot.
Okay,
going into autopilot has done him well so far. He's strategized very well against his last couple of opponents. Do you know what I mean? But he's going to need a little bit more than that against me.
So you think your plan for the end of the fight is to catch him with that knee on the when he's going for the takedown?
We've drilled a few things. We've drilled a few things. So we'll see. We'll see. We're planning to strategize for certain areas that the fight could go. Do you know what I
mean? Your last fight obviously didn't end the way you wanted it to. Was that your first professional loss?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was. And it was my first loss in like 6 or 7 years. Yeah. I'd went unbeaten in amateur for like a long time. Mm-hmm. It was a blessing in disguise, really. Mm-hmm. A huge learning curve. I mean, first of all, I was fighting a former title challenger. He's one of the best guys in Europe. So first of all, kudos to Thomas Robertson, and thank you for taking the fight. He really didn't have to. He had more to lose than to gain fighting me there. But sometimes you need to kick up the arse to let you know what you've been doing wrong in your preparation. So in hindsight, when I looked back, there was a few things I could have adjusted and done differently in preparation for that fight. And that's not taking away from Robertson's win. I don't like to make excuses. Anyone that knows me knows that I never make excuses. But there were a few things. I mean, one of the contributing factors was I felt really flat and lethargic. And I put that down to, I was basically in camp from January all the way to June because the amount of different pullouts I've had and change of opponents.
Overtrained.
Strength. Yeah, and I was having to cut weight. And then, I'd cut weight just 3 weeks before that Robertson fight for a fight that was meant to happen 3 weeks before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my body I just didn't feel like myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't perform like myself. And, Robertson being the top athlete that he is, took advantage of that, as he should.
Going into that fight and the fights before, was the losing that first loss a thing to you? Did you even think about I really don't want to lose this, or was it just sort of I'm going in for this fight, whatever?
That doesn't really occur to me because we're fighters. You win, you lose. Like anything can happen, right? But also I'm quite old school in my mentality. Like the fighters I look up to, the fighters I consider great, whether that's MMA or boxing, all have L's on their record with the exception of John Jones.
Yeah.
All the great fighters, whether it's Marvin Hagler, whether it's, Randy Couture, whether it's Anderson Silva, whether it's Bernard Hopkins or, Evander Holyfield, those guys have all got L's on their record and they're considered the greatest fighters ever to walk the planet Earth.
Yeah.
No one looks at those losses and goes, oh yeah, but he was a bit wank, wasn't he? Because he lost. Yeah. No one does that. They all go, he was a great fighter and those fighters picked tough fights that they felt they could win, but may lose. Sometimes they won, sometimes they lost. I'm that kind of fighter. I'm a throwback fighter. I've never, ever said no to any opponent. I mean, in one fight where I was meant to, which fight was it? It was, I was meant to fight, I've forgotten the kid's name now. It's you know, when all those letters are put together and it doesn't look like it spells anything.
Yeah.
I was meant to fight him in Colchester. And in that final week, I shit you not, I had 4 changes of opponent.
Right.
4 changes of opponent.
It seems to happen a lot in Cage Warriors.
Say that again, sorry?
It seems to happen a lot that in Cage Warriors, late changes of opponent. A lot.
Cage Warriors are one of the safest organisations to fight for.
Yeah.
But it's a double-edged sword because they make sure you have to pass a lot of medical examinations, and they have a kind of a governing body in safe MMA with brain scans, blood tests, you know, all these different medicals. And if you fail one of those, you are not fighting. And I can understand why.
Yeah.
I mean, I ended in Colchester. By the time I had my 4th change of opponent, this is all in the space of the final week, by the way. The guy had flown out from Poland the day before the fight. Big set of balls on the kid, and I really appreciated it. He came into the UK, did all his tests, and he failed the brain scan.
Right.
And he just wasn't allowed to fight.
Yeah.
Now, imagine we didn't know there was an issue with that. I mean, it may have just been temporary, but at the time we were like, you can't fight because we were not sure what's going on here.
Yeah.
But imagine I fought that kid and I caused him a permanent brain injury.
Of course, yeah.
How am I going to live with myself knowing that some guy can no longer go back to his family ever being the same again?
Yeah. And so the testing's as much for you as it is for him, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm appreciative of it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think you should definitely be.
Even leading up to that fight, I mean, they were offering me guys who had 30 pro fights, I was like, yeah. I didn't even need to know the name. I was just like, yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. But I'm just one of those kind of guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, you'll hear people say, oh, I'll fight anybody, and they don't really mean it.
Yeah.
You know? I'm one of those guys where, dude, put the guy in front of me. We both bleed. We both got hands. We both got legs. Let's go.
I think an example of that at the moment is Colby Covington in the UFC, isn't he? He's like, yeah, anyone, anytime. And he's sort of dodging as many people as he can.
Guys like that. It's become a cliche thing to say, and guys don't really mean it.
Yeah. But
then there are a few of us who really mean it.
Yeah, cool. Just going back to that John Jones, you're not having it that he lost that fight then? That illegal elbow? You're not giving him that one? Does that actually...
you hurt your opponent and you end up losing. Ridiculous.
Yeah. There's a big argument about that elbow at the moment, isn't there?
I think the 12-6 elbow argument's a load of bullshit.
Yeah, it is, and Joe Rogan's always on about it, yeah.
You hurt yourself more. Yeah. The elbow someone on the top of the head like this, the elbow fucking hurts.
Yeah. So you're obviously often the physically bigger man in your fights. What sort of psychological impact does that have going in? Is it like I can't picture it myself.
So I'm gonna let you in on a little bit of something I kept close to my chest in regard to previous fights and my last fight. So, like you said, I'm used to being the bigger, stronger, physical man, and I was so used to that throughout my career. You know, if the going got tough, I could kind of meathead the situation, just grab someone, rag them around, and get the better of them. And I took that so much for granted that in my last fight, in the preparation build up to my last fight, I didn't do any strength and conditioning. I didn't do any lifting at all. So all that bulk you see on me was just what's on my body. I didn't lift a single weight. And I paid for it because I went into the fight feeling weak. I mean, I felt so weak. I mean, I got into a body clinch with Robertson, and usually that's my money position. I mean, I will give anybody in the world a run for their money in that body clinch position. And I went to turn him. I couldn't move the kid. I couldn't. I felt like a little girl in there in terms of my physical strength.
and it messed my head up during the round. And what that made me do was come out of the fight, sit back, and it was time for introspection. So I had to look and say, what did you do differently than you've done in the past? What made you the kind of behemoth that you were before to the person who's just taken a loss now? And I looked, and one of the things where I wasn't strong, I wasn't big and I wasn't strong, you know? So one of the things I've got back round to doing is real, strength training, some heavy lifting. And that's no disrespect to my strength and conditioning coach, Chris Meir, from before, because he had worked wonders with me. He taught me a lot of stuff. But I wasn't able to work with him as much as I had, because he'd come out of semi-retirement and gone back into fighting himself and picked up a lot more clients. So it was kind of unfair for me to be kind of always going back to him. Yeah. So right now I'm working with a strength and conditioning coach called Mark Atkinson. We call him Mark Red Hulk Atkinson because this guy is the strongest man you'll ever see in your entire life. You won't believe what this guy can. He's very knowledgeable, and he's just helping me get things back to basics. Yeah. Just heavy lifting and incorporating, my cardiovascular system into that. So shout out to Mark Atkinson over there at Anchor Gym in West Bromwich. Listen, all you guys that are local, I'm telling you, if you want to get big and strong, he's the man to do it for you.
Because that's the first thing on commentary. Oh, well, what's the gas tank? What's the gas tank of a muscly, not just you, a muscly fighter? And watching that fight back, what's the gas tank?
So we're aware of that. We're aware of that. So we're always trying to keep the gas tank high. Do you know what I mean? I always go into all my fights preparing for, however many rounds the fight's going to be for. But obviously we don't get paid for overtime. So if I can finish the fight quickly, I'll finish the fight quickly. But, in my head, I know it can go the distance.
And just going to the MMA scene in Birmingham, you've got Leon Edwards at the card on. He's going to be there on Saturday. You know that. And Matt Goddard is also going to be there. The MMA scene, outside of those, is there somebody who we should be watching for other than yourself, of course?
Mate, Birmingham is absolutely full of talent right now, There's a few guys. I mean, there's Leon's brother, Fabian, who is that guy who's going to be a star. It's a champion in the making right there. You got other guys like Yannick Bahati, who's just come off a loss to Manhoff. But don't write the kid off just yet, man. He's had some tough fights, and he's young. He'll bounce back from this, you know what I mean, with the correct guidance and the correct coaching. You got other guys, Matty Byfield. He's just had his professional debut. He's one of the most talented kids I've ever had the pleasure of working with him. And now that he's finally realised it himself, I think you're really going to start hearing his name out there. You got Aiden Lee, who's just an awesome fighter, recently signed with Bellator. He had a tough fight with Saul Rogers. By gained. He's another guy that'll bounce back from that. Tom Breeze, of course. Yeah. Who I believe is coming back from injury. He's one of my coaches and a friend of mine, one of my inspirations, one of the guys that really motivates me to be a better athlete. One of the best fighters I've ever shared a mat with. I shit you not. It's a shame that injuries have plagued him. Yeah. Because if the world could really see what this guy could do, you know what I mean? He's something else. Let me think. Who else? There's a couple of kids coming through. A couple of other kids coming through. I don't want to put too much pressure on them by saying that. Not saying the name. Well, Ty Frederick is doing really well. He's fighting another mate of mine in James Webb over at Cage Warriors. It's a tough one for me because Matthias is a teammate and a friend, and I really like James. Webb. I consider him a mate as well. We even though he's a more recent mate, and we met through Cage Warriors, he's a really good guy, man. So it's tough watching two guys you really like fighting.
That's going to be me on Saturday, watching you and Mick fighting.
Mick Stanton, exactly.
Yeah, because couldn't ask to speak to two nicer guys, to be honest.
Yeah. This is the sport we're in. This is the sport. Sometimes you're going to fight guys you like. Yeah. You know what I mean? So. Sometimes you're going to watch two guys that you like fight each other. It's just the nature of what we do,
And just finally, you spoke about a lot of talent there locally. What does the future hold for you, Micheal? What do you see for yourself?
I've got a 5-year plan in my head. These are the first few steps. Obviously I'm signed to a multi-fight deal on Cage Warriors. The plan is to win the world title on Cage Warriors. Once I do that, if I'm offered something on greener pastures, then I'll do that. As everyone knows, Cage Warriors is a partner company for the UFC, so they kind of feed talent over to the UFC. That's the plan, and obviously, there are other organisations now that are kind of coming up. Bellator's over there. You got ONE FC over in Asia that are absolutely massive. Paying their fighters a shitload of dough as well.
That's always nice.
So yeah, and there's just options. There's more options out there now.
Yeah,
there isn't just one company with a monopoly on the whole thing. And I'm quite an astute businessman. I came into the game from the corporate world. I didn't enter the game with nothing and say, "Oh, I want to be a fighter. This is what I need." I mean, I came from being a businessman and came into the fight game, so I have a business mind when it comes to these things. So I'm able to do half decently for myself so far.
Brilliant.
But yeah, win a couple of world titles, cement my legacy. I want to be immortalised in the history books.
Yeah, no 96 elbows then.
Well, if we get those rules changed,
yeah, hopefully. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll fingers crossed. I'll leave you to it, Micheal. But thank you very much. Finally, we got this together.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on here. It's been a pleasure. Truly.
Hopefully we can catch up after the fight and see how you gone. But I wish you all the very best. All right, pal.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, man. See you later. Bye bye.